Who says that the Atari 2600 can only be used for fun? If the front cover of the box is to be believed, it can also be used to train your brain so you can be an evil wizard that can use his finely tuned melon to take over the world. Sadly, as with most artistic imaginings of 2600 games, the promise is way more than what is actually delivered. Brain Games has 6 different modes of edutainment puzzles that you can solve using the keyboard controller. Some are simple, some are moderately challenging, and one I'm positive was conceived by Satan himself. Also, on a side note, the names of these modes sound absolutely horrible, especially when put together and read without the context of knowing what the game is. Touch Me is similar to the toy Simon, where the computer will play a series of notes that you must copy. With each successful run-through of tones, the computer will replay the series and add another note to the end. This will continue until you miss the string of tones 4 times, or you complete a 32-tone streak. Depending on what game mode you select, there can be anywhere from 6 to 9 potential notes that can be played. Count Me is an alternate version of Touch Me. Instead of the tones showing up on screen in their respective position on the keyboard controller, their corresponding number shows up instead. Outside of that change, the games are identical. Picture Me is a simple memorization game. The computer will show you 4 random items for a set amount of time. It varies between games. After the countdown has finished, the 4 items will be randomized on the left side of the screen, and it's up to you to put them in the correct order. There are a lot of items like boxes with lines going through them and clocks, but having only 4 items on screen during any one round makes this rather simplistic. Find Me is another picture-based game where 4 seemingly identical items are put on display. 3 of these will be identical, while 1 will have a slight difference. For example, a clock showing 3 o'clock might have notch cut out of it. Given the extreme graphical limitations of the system, it doesn't take that long to find out what doesn't belong. Add Me is the most challenging of the gameplay varieties here. Depending on the game selection, either 4 or 5 numbers will pop up and you only have a few seconds to add them all together and enter in the correct answer into the keypad. It is simple, but quite effective. Play Me is, without a doubt, the worst thing ever unleashed upon the earth. Someone, presumably Satan, in their infinite wisdom was listening to the sound effects of the Atari 2600 and thought to himself, "You know what would be awesome? If kids could play music with this." And thus, the Atari 2600 music generator was born. The manual helpfully tells you what keys to press if you want to play Happy Birthday, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, or 3 Blind Mice. Their treachery doesn't end there, however, as they were nice enough to give precise directions on how 2 people could play Row, Row, Row Your Boat together. Staggered. I don't have the words to properly describe how painful it is. Brain Games is not held up in any way, shape, or form. The only reason to ever boot this up is to get a glimpse into the early days of edutainment and home synthesizers. The box artwork is some of that fantastic early painted style, this time featuring an educated wizard showing off how good he is. The manual is pretty sparse, but does a nice job of breaking down the game, as well as providing you the button presses for those god-awful songs. As this was an early release, Brain Games showed up in multiple Atari catalogs and also got a Sears Telegames release. The concept is simple. You have a paddle and a handful of balls and must take down a giant rainbow wall brick by brick. What isn't so simple is the act of actually taking down that wall. When you hit the button, a ball flies toward you at an incredibly slow pace, ricocheting off of your paddle towards the wall above. Once it gently taps a brick, it makes the journey towards the bottom of the screen where your paddle awaits to send it back up for round 2. While this sounds incredibly slow and boring, it does pick up quickly and unexpectedly, since once it taps a brick, the 3rd layer, your ball will rocket back towards you rather than gracefully float down. From there on out, you will have to rely on your quick old-school gaming reflexes if you want to avoid having to summon another ball. This continues until you have successfully destroyed the wall, which summons another one to take its place, or all of your balls have fallen down the bottomless pit below you. There are a ton of gameplay varieties here. The basic one is the simple deflection game, where the ball bounces off your paddle at an angle and flies off at the appropriate alternate angle. The catch game allows you to catch and hold the ball, which lets you carefully select your next target. One of the games allows you to control the ball once it deflects off your paddle, but instead of being accurate, it is more like a poorly aimed gust of wind that sends the ball into random directions. These variations can be combined with another set that includes a timer, so you can be reminded just how long it is taking you to hit that last lone block, and an invisible wall that only appears when you hit it. The most interesting variation is the breakthrough mode, which turns your ball into a battering ram that will plow through the wall, hit the roof, and plow through it again as it heads back to the bottom. The only downside to this mode is that it robs you of the greatest achievement this game has to offer, the edge sneak. Nothing is more satisfying than being able to perfectly place the ball on the side of the wall, breaking each layer of brick out and creating a pathway to the top. No matter who you are, you'll give a celebratory fist pump the first time you sneak the ball to the top of the wall and watch it crumble from the top down. In its original form, Breakout was played with the paddle controllers. Over time, it has become more and more difficult to be able to play it in the proper form. However, using a mouse is a decent substitute, even if it doesn't give you the authentic experience. The box cover features two athletes engaged in what looks like a vigorous game of racquetball. Not sure what that has to do with Breakout, but here we are. The manual is simple, giving a nice breakdown of the game and all of the various modes that can be selected. As this was an early Atari 2600 release, it showed up in multiple catalogs throughout the years. This game was also released by Sears Telegames, however it had a different name, Breakaway 4. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to see more Game Encyclopedia videos.